is with respect to pain and suffering caused by humans, the whole question of free will. God gave us freedom. Unfortunately, freedom is going to lead to people doing bad things as well as good things, but God thought that, or realized that it was better that we have freedom despite the pain and suffering than that we just be marionettes controlled by the DNA and no more. So that, now, whether or not you feel that that's an adequate answer overall, I think that it's certainly something that one can use, say, in the evolutionary context. Now, the traditional argument about pain and suffering in the physical world is due to the great philosopher Leibniz. And Leibniz said, to say that God is all-powerful is not to say that God can do the impossible. God may be all-powerful, but it does not mean that God can make 2 + 2 = 5. And the point is that if God, in fact, has created through law, then perhaps as a consequence, we're going to have pain and suffering. I mean, pain and suffering is, say, burning. If you sit on a hot stove or something, you're going to feel pain. But it's better to feel pain from sitting on a hot stove than to be sitting down and saying, my God, that smells good, what's for supper? You know, so as I say, I think those would be the kind of moves that one would make. Very interestingly, the arch-evolutionary atheist Richard Dawkins argues, and I think that he makes a good point here, he says that in his opinion, the only way that evolution can work is through natural selection. So if in fact you give good arguments to say, as I've been trying to earlier, to say that God had to create in a developmental way, that this was, as it were, part of the package of what being God meant and what creation means, then maybe one would say that pain and suffering, as it were, are part of this package deal, and just as inevitably as 2 + 2 = 5. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that, you know, end of argument. But I am saying that there are ways that one can start in on an issue like this.
Sure, yeah. I totally agree with everything he says. I would only add very briefly, if you ponder it carefully, you could not possibly think of continuing new life without preceding death. And again, the best religious traditions in the world, and I think among others, Taoism, simply say life and death are always together. And if you could maybe expand that and say joy and suffering, or life and suffering are always together. And you simply accept them as part of the one integrated whole.
Panelists, any final words?
I want to say this, that you people are so lucky that I mean, you know, one worries sometimes that one's going to run out of problems. What creationists and intelligent design people don't realize is that good science, you start the day with one question and you end the day with 2 questions. And I really envy you people, because science and evolutionary theory is just so exciting at the moment, and there's so much good work to be done. Go to it.
And I would only add, though probably you're here because most of you are going to become scientists, don't overlook the possibility that being a philosopher and a theologian is also very exciting. And those are good professions also.
I guess I'd just like to echo something that Sean said at the beginning, which is one of my biggest frustrations as a scientist, is the way that this story is often reported. And I do think that journalists are trained to report a controversy. So get one person on each side of an issue, regardless of the amount of data on the 2 sides of the issue, put a mic in front of each one of them and hope you can get a big fight going, because that'll produce a good story on the news. I appreciate all of you guys coming and actually listening for 2 whole days about lectures on evolution, because I don't think that there's that many opportunities for people really to see the breadth and the history and the amount of data that's come from a whole bunch of different fields. And I appreciate you guys sitting through a couple of 2 solid days of chances for scientists to talk about the overwhelming body of evidence from all different sorts of fields, physics as well as biology and paleontology, that supports this key idea about how life has evolved on Earth.
I don't think I can add anything but my thanks. What a great crowd, and I hope you guys, your dreams come true. And I hope some of you take science into all sorts of walks of life, whether they're theological or philosophical, I'm not sure. But I will say we need more scientists in the media, in government, in all sorts of areas because that illiteracy is costing us a great deal. So I hope you can see there's more than one way to take interest in science or knowledge of science forward. And I hope we've at least lit a few fires that, or at least encouraged a few fires that are already burning in some of you.